So
Good.
how are you?
I'm doing well, especially after some amazing release this weekend, we can call it. How about you? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. It was definitely like an emotional ride for me. It was like all of the emotions were coming up, so much release, so much things bubbling up. It was definitely one of those times where you just have to sit in all of the emotions and just let them come through.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I was actually kind of surprised. So what Cindy and I are talking about is that we this weekend had did a ceremony for our ancestors on I did mine Halloween night. I'm not sure when Cindy did hers, but um, we did a ceremony when we talked to our ancestors, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today and like what it brought up for us because it did bring a lot up within me, and from the brief conversation we had, I feel like it brought up a lot within you that you didn't even realize, just like I didn't even realize what what was going on. So
Yeah. I did mine's on Halloween too. And then yesterday I put up some more flowers, some pretty flowers, and just put my crystals out and picture of my dad, all of the things. I put that out yesterday, but I did my whole writing and really releasing all of the emotions that were coming up and all the things that I wanted to create. I really put them out in paper on Halloween, the day of the full moon.
mhm. Which was also um, when the veil is thin. The Celtic tradition, the pagan tradition, is called Samhain. Of course, I'm probably not pronouncing it right, and I do apologize for that because. But it's where we connect to our loved ones or ancestors that have passed away. And this year, I I did my own ceremony, with the times that are where we are, where we're not really gathering right now in big. So the ceremony I usually do, I didn't do this year. So I did my own ceremony, which was quite empowering. What I did was I set up a little altar I sat on the floor because that's what I felt like I wanted to do. So I set up this little altar. Um, I brought in like candles and some crystals. Um, one of the statues of one of the goddesses that I wanted to call in to help like support me and keep the space safe to only allow the highest good to come through. Um, and then I took pictures of the loved ones that I wanted to talk to, and I put them up there. And then I set out a little treat for each of them. So, like, I had whiskey for my Irish grandfather and chocolates for my grandmom who had sweet teeth and not a sweet tooth. And then I had a peanut butter sandwich for my grandfather. He was peanut butter and jelly, but I don't like jelly. So, this is like an ongoing joke that we have with each other in the spirit world, or spirit, because I've talked to him. Used to talk to him a lot more often, but like once after my grandma passed, I don't talk to him as much. So it was really kind of nice to reconnect. But also in doing the ceremony that I did, I also had realized some things that came up. So that's how I kind of set up my altar and started my ceremony and my time spent with them.
Yeah, and it's interesting because like I did a post yesterday and it's really about like, when we think of people dying, we think that like they're just gone forever. And then we carry on this guilt, this sadness, this all of these emotions, and we carry them for a long time. But really, if you just sit down and actually just write out everything that's coming through and really just talk to them, because they're still here. It's just they don't communicate the same way that we communicate. So they're not gonna, you can probably hear them, but like us, like I'm not that in tune, so I don't hear it, but I see signs. I feel the energy. I feel all of the things that are coming through. I don't hear it, but I see it in different places. I see it in different forms. And it's just really being open to that, being open to their communication is not the same anymore.
Yeah.
It's just it's different, but they're still there. They still have that love for you. They still have all of that. And it's really about, tapping into that.
Yeah. And we did it on this day, but you can do it any day. So like I said, I used to talk to my grandfather a lot more. Like a year and a half before my grandmother passed away. I was doing this ceremony with my friend. It's called a Ebola. And it's kind of like a clearing out ceremony and then like intentions and a ceremony. Um, and then after you're done, you have these offerings, and then you find out where these offerings have to go, because you can't just throw them away in this practice. So there's like the bag where you create for the Igbo to, and then there's like eggs because that's what you're offering up to the mothers, and then there's the candles. And so we do it, and he's asking questions where they want to be left, and it gets to the candles. And mind you, right now it's like dark, it's in the middle of the winter, it is like 10, maybe 10 o'clock at night that we're finishing up this ceremony. And he throws out, and he's like, a cemetery. And I said, Jose, please tell me you're not sending me to a cemetery right now, because I am not doing that. He's like, no, 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 you don't have to go now, you can go in the next couple of days, but the candles have to go to a cemetery. And I was like, okay. And he's like, wait, not just anyone. Wait a second, there's something more. So he's like, you have to take it to your grandfather. And so then we had to narrow down which grandfather, which I was happy it was this one, because my other grandfather's in Pennsylvania. So that would have been a longer trip. So I had to take these candles, and I take these candles out to the ceremony, the gravesite, and it has his name and my grandmom's name. But when I do, I bring coffee, light and sweet, like he liked it. And I brought him actually got him a peanut butter and jelly, like little bagel thing that I found at Wawa. And I brought that with him. And I brought my own coffee, and I sat down and I had a conversation with him and just talked. And then, you don't necessarily always hear them, but you kind of get like this feeling. So like I'm sitting here on our conversation, I'm looking at the stone, I'm like, oh, grandma would not appreciate it if everybody showed up here to honor her and the stone looked like this. And like I could hear him laughing, like I could feel the laughter. And so I went and done a series where I actually would go and clean the stone, because I knew that I was getting this ready for my grandma when she passed. And to tell you that the one day I showed up after my grandma afterwards to see my grandma, and she had dementia. So she wasn't always in, she didn't always know your name. I knew she always recognized me because the way she lit up. I spent like, some time with her, an hour or two or so. When I got up to leave, she looked me right in the eye and she said, thank you. And I said, for what? And she goes, no, thank you. I really appreciate it. I lost it. I walked out of the house, then I lost it because I didn't want to cry in front of my uncle because he'd be like, he wouldn't be able to handle it. But I lost it. And it was just like, she's been talking to him, like, and I've been talking to, and she knew exactly what I was doing. And this is just having a conversation. There's no like special prayer or anything that I did. This is just going and sitting and having a conversation. And it doesn't have to be there. It could be at a special place. But for me, that's what it was. And then he leaves like signs around. But you can do this anytime. But the reason why we did it on Saturday, because it was like a special day. So we added a special little celebration to it.
Yeah, and what I wanted to talk a little bit about was like what we wrote too. It's like for me, it was more of like you had told me to just like forgive because there was a lot of things bubbling up, a lot of emotions, and in order for us to create more things, we have to forgive the past. We have to forgive all of the things to create more space, and that's what I did. I wrote down all of the things that I forgave my dad for, that I forgave my in this situation, yeah, my dad. And then like I did my regular family, like my immediate family right now. But when I was focusing on my dad, it was just mostly like all of the things that I didn't even know were like still, hurting. And then like I just let it go, and the tears were falling so much. And I didn't realize that I had so much things held up, because I like when I think of my dad right now, like I don't feel any hurt. I don't feel any pain. But when I sat down and wrote, it was just like waterfalls. It was like so much things that needed to release. And it like there's still a little bit of stuff there, but it's still like it's still all just coming up, and it's really just writing it down, and that just gives you so much peace. And knowing that, I know that he forgives me. Like I understand that he doesn't see it the way that I do. Like, and this is just my interpretation too, on like how I saw things and what I needed to forgive him on. And like maybe he didn't see it that way, but that's still, it's still emotions that I feel, and it's still the things that I needed to let go. And that's what I did. I let them go, and then I wrote down all of the things that I wanted to bring in, and then like asking him for help, asking him to help me achieve all of these things, because that's what they're there for. Like our ancestors are here to help us when we ask for it, when we are open to receiving all of the abundance that the universe has to offer, you know. And it's really, I sat down and I wrote down all of the things that I wanted to create for this year, for the rest of this year and the beginning of the next year, and all of that stuff. And like really just asking for protection too, and helping my mom heal, helping my children heal, like all of that pain that we feel.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then we went to the gravestone yesterday. We actually went to go see him, and we just said hi to him and bye.
Yeah. As soon as I sat down in front of the the pictures, the whole altar and everything, boom, the tears just came. And I was like, I wasn't expecting that. So my one grandfather that I just talked about passed away in 85. My other one was in 94. I was my second year. And then my grandmom's, it's been like a year and almost 2 years now. And so I figured, like, I was like, I'm gonna talk to her last because I figured that would be like the big waterworks because it's still fresh and we had and still have such a connection. But as soon as I sat down, like they just nonstop, and I was like, I wasn't expecting this. That was the thought that came into my head. I was like, wow, I really wasn't expecting this. And it was nice because then I did my dad's dad first, and I wrote to him, and man, I could not stop crying. And I realized in that moment with the tears coming through that I actually really never gave myself the opportunity to fully grieve him because there is a lot surrounding the situation. I was in my second year, my third semester of college. So that was a lot. I was living at home and commuting to college, so I was still at home. But my brother took it very hard. And I didn't realize like how much I was holding on. And then it was just like to have a nice, fun, playful thing. But it was like, a message to my dad, a message for him to reach out to my dad. There's like all these little things, and then like what I wanted to create in there. And then I burned the letter and I let myself kind of like just soak in and all the things that I did. So it was really interesting. And then I went to my other grandfather, and I didn't realize, and I just said I talked to him a lot, that I was really pissed off at him. And I was like I couldn't like write in the letter, like I was mad, and I was like, wow, where is this coming from? And my grandma would have these moments. She'd be like crying, upset, and then she would be mad, like, how could you leave me so soon? How could you leave me with 5 kids and all these boys, and the boys are doing it? And like I felt like that was kind of the energy I was in. But in his letter, I asked him to say hello to my Aunt Helen, who was his sister, who was a big part, and then obviously my grandmom. And then I was just like, talking to her and just all the stuff, what my intentions are, where I want her to help me with, and all those things. Her being reunited with all her brothers again, because her last brother just passed away last week or a week and a half ago. And just like having it, like how you doing, how's the afterlife, like just a natural conversation with her. And then I got confirmation the next day. So, you know, you can hear the signs. I mean, you can like have that conversation and hear them and feel them, but then you can get that second confirmation or even more signs. Like you may notice even more signs. Have you noticed anything yet?
I haven't, honestly, I haven't even really paid attention. I've been in my little bubble.
I love how you said that. I haven't really paid attention
Mhm.
because that's what happened. It doesn't mean that you're
Yeah.
getting signs. It's just you're not paying attention to receive the signs.
Yeah. I think it's like, I think there's like a lot of avoidance too right now within me. And I'm just not there yet.
Where is your avoidance coming up from?
I don't know. There's just like a lot of, I'm pretty much avoiding everything right now. I'm not even, I'm just trying to stay in this like little container. And
Container.
I'm not trying to do anything. Like literally I'm avoiding all the things
Mm.
if possible.
Which is not going to be possible forever. You do know that. I did that with my grandma. I was in avoidance, but I didn't want to hear any communications from her because then I knew her physical body wasn't here. And that's what I was mourning the most, the loss of her physical body. Like I won't feel her touch, which is not true because she touches my shoulder all the time. But that's how I was feeling at that time. Like I not gonna see her smile or the way that she lights up the room. And it's more mourning that. So like I was avoiding, like I didn't want any communication because then that would make it more real, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's true. Actually I was sitting down the other day, well, yesterday, and I was just thinking about like really this made me really, really sad because I was like, okay, I was just imagining my dad like with his mom because my grandma passed away a couple years ago. And it just that made it like it made it real. Like shit, he's gone and he's probably happy, most likely happy because he's with her, you know, and like he had this love for his mom. Like he would call her every day, he would check up on her every single day. And when he lost her, he was very upset.
Mhm.
So like now just imagining them together and being happy, it kind of hurts because it's like, damn, that was my dad. And that's how like he saw her, you know? And that's how I feel like, and that's what made it hurt even more. And that's why I'm just like, okay, let's just avoid this real quick and just sit in my boat.
Yeah. So the next day I got confirmation that the letters I wrote and everything were received. So I had my friend Ursula, our friend Ursula, pull me a card. Um, and she pulled the card and the card said Holy Spirit. And when she lifted up the card and put it there, and I said, are those leaves? And she's like, yeah, it's like fall leaves. I'm like, oh my God. And she goes, and there's a bird on it, and it was number 10. And I said, oh my God. She's like, what? And I said, well, when my grandfather passed away, they read this book called Freddie the Leaf, which is about the life cycle. My grandma became obsessed with the fall colors and leaves. I asked my grandfather to say hello to my aunt, who was obsessed with birds. And I said, and to top it all off, the card is 10, and my other grandfather was born on 10/1. I said, how's that confirmation was like so perfect. And then the card was about family, which was even more perfect. So it was just like, but I could have been in that moment like you, where like, oh, it's just another card. But like as soon as I saw the leaves, it was like instant no. I just knew. And that's the big thing. Like when you get these signs, that first feeling that you have, just go with it. So that was on Sunday. Monday I did laundry and I pick up the laundry and a dime falls out. I don't even remember having a change, and it just falls out of laundry, and I was like, Thank you, grandfather. Because my mom always said that dimes were from her dad. And so now that's how I associate it. So every time I see a dime, it's from, it was just like these little things. And that's all there is, like little things, whether you hear it in the song or you see something, you just, you recognize it in that moment for what it is. And that's the sign for your loved one.
Yeah, it's interesting because you one time you said, pennies from the sky. And really like I've known that, like I heard about it a long time ago, and it's really like I heard that the coins, whenever you see coins, that's like a loved one's like near you, like a loved one here. And yeah, that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah. Yeah. I have nickels are associated with my uncle because of the number five. And so is the number five. So you have like, it's sometimes it's from general, like the pennies, pennies from heaven. I thank them and I pick it up. Usually, unless it's in the middle street, I don't bend over in the middle street. The last thing I want to do is fall over and get hurt. So I just thank them and say, I'm leaving this one here for the next person. But I appreciate it. But the whole experience was amazing. And you could do this throughout the whole year, like write a letter, have a conversation. I remember doing this. Like I remember my grandmother always having these conversations, like cleaning the stove, and then like she would be talking to my grandfather.
Mhm.
And at the time, I never thought anything of it. Like I never thought like, oh, she's crazy, or what is she doing? And it wasn't until I started doing this that I realized that she was still meeting with them
Yeah.
and still having that conversation, and getting the signs and the help, because what she did is amazing. How she managed to get by all these years and do what she did, it's just absolutely amazing. And now I know that he and whoever else she was talking to, because sometimes she would talk to her mother, was supporting her along the way, and she just did it naturally. And sometimes nowadays we don't even do it. We don't even have those conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because I had a client. This was actually, that client was like another, like, it was like we were supposed to meet. It was like this thing where our parents like made it, like, because her parent had passed away and my parent had passed away, and it was just like at that moment we needed to see each other and we needed to talk to each other. And one of the things that she was telling me, and she was like, I really miss my mom, and like I bought this house for her and she didn't even get to enjoy it.
Mm.
And then at that moment, like I felt the energy just come through me, and it was just like, oh, she's here. She's here right now, and she wants you to know that you can still talk to her, that you can still have these conversations with her all the time, that she's here. And she was like, oh my god, I know. She was like, I do have conversations with her, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's like I have these conversations with her. And I was like, yeah, I was like, I lost my dad too, and these are the things that, like, I feel that energy when it comes through. Like I feel like all of this like tingling all over my body, and it's like, okay, well, somebody's here and they want you to know something. So like I told her that, and she was like, yeah, I do. I have these conversations with her all the time. And it's really that. It's like we can have these conversations with them all the time. And
Mhm.
I think that builds up your like intuitive gifts too. Like I feel like it just like builds it up even more, because now you're even more present to like what's going on, what's happening, and all the energies that are coming through.
Yeah, and it's true. And I feel like me as a young child, I lost my uncle, and then but like I never felt that because I always felt him around me, and I didn't know. Like I was like not even 5 yet, but I feel like I've always talked to him and had that. But those signs, like you have like this big, like you feel the tinglings all over and everything. For everybody it's different. So for anybody that's listening and they hear this, know that your experience is your experience. So for you, it could just be this light wind that comes through, or it could be just a change of frequencies, and it could happen in your physical body. Like you could feel a touch somewhere, your one ear could start ringing or burning. These are all signs that somebody is coming through. So like, don't base your experience, better or worse, on anybody else's experience, because your experience is your experience alone, and we all experience our psychic senses differently.
Yeah, that's very true.
Hmm. And it happens like a lot, because people are like, well, I don't see anything. Like, you people say, I see this and I see that. Using those words just makes it easier to communicate what you might be feeling or knowing. And just because somebody says, I see this, doesn't necessarily mean that the person actually sees it. It's just their way of communicating what they're feeling. Like, if you're like, oh, I just know this, because people may not listen. So a lot of people will say, I hear, I see, because those are things that people can understand. But the psychic senses, most of our psychic senses are clairsentient and claircognizance, which is clear feeling and clear knowing. The clear seeing and the clear hearing is not as common for everybody as the other two. Doesn't mean you can't develop them. It's just not as common. So don't get frustrated if you're not seeing something or, or hearing something. You can know it to be true and feel it to be true.
That's what we have for you guys today. And I just want to let you guys know that you guys can write these letters like all the time, whenever you're feeling. And this really just like lets you release so much more. It really does like take that weight off, because
Mm-hmm.
we carry these things for so long. And especially like if you're feeling guilt, anger, sadness, all of those things, especially write it down so that you can just release it, so you're not carrying it for the rest of your life, for the rest of, you know, yeah, your life.
Yeah. And, grief happens when it's happened. So, you could have grieved to a certain point, but realize you're still holding on to grief even years later. I mean, like, I was 19. And so that was over 20 years ago that my grandfather passed away. And was still holding on to this and not necessarily realizing it. And it's okay. There's nothing to get frustrated or mad about. And it could be 5 years from now, it could be 40 years from now that something could happen, and you grieve because you didn't realize you were holding on to it, because you weren't able to at that moment to go there. So just allow whatever emotions to come up, and let anything be revealed. It's coming up now for you to actually heal it, to release it, to let go, and have fun. I really have fun. Like, they don't have to be serious letters. You can have fun. Like, you can write about, like, my kids did this, my nephew did this, or like, in my one grandfather's, like, I am sorry that we tortured you so much, and took off, because my papa McLaughlin, he would watch us, and we would like go climb trees. We would go places in the woods where we weren't supposed to. He would spend hours trying to find us, and we were a big clan. There was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 of us all in one area, but he didn't have 12 of us at the time, because like, I'm like in the middle. So I have a cousin that's like 14 years older than me. And then, so, but we did these things, and so I was like, I'm sorry we did like tortured you like that. Now that I'm an adult and like see my nephews and like, hear the stories. My nephew walked home from school the other day, and my sister's panicking. And I'm like, man, does she not realize what we used to do? Like, does she forget these things and how much we tortured Pop-Up and it was, that happened like right before I wrote the letter. So I think that's why it came up. But you can do these things. Like, you can have fun with them. Like, yeah, I went and I did this, or, it doesn't have to be serious. It's
Yeah.
however you would communicate with them when they
Yeah.
were sitting in front of you. And
It
then
just,
it's, yeah. And then it's also whatever you like need to forgive or release or let go that you hold on to. It's like both things.
yeah, it's interesting because it's like you can have that same relationship that you had when you were present, like you could still have that. Like we laugh so much with my brothers about my dad and like all the things that he used to do. So like we'll be like, Dad, this, and like we'll have these conversations as we're doing things, and he's like, Dad's here and he thinks that you're an idiot or something. Like, and we'll just like, Dad's looking at you and he's looking at you like the way that he always looked at you, like you're crazy. Because
Yeah.
look at my brother a certain way because my brother is just out of the world. But yeah, and especially my son, he used
Yeah.
to jump on my dad all the time. So we would like when we would go to the graveyard and stuff, we'd be like, Dad, Leon misses jumping on your shoulders, like, and like Leon he'll talk about it. He'll be like, yeah, remember when I used to like climb on his head? He used to do all of these things on my dad, and it was just those things are just fun to remember, and it's just like that love. It's just bringing back that love even more.
Absolutely. I like how you end it. We're going to end it on that because I like that. So where can people find you?
They can find me at cinderellaspa.com and at Cinderella Spa on Instagram. You can book your clarity calls on my website. That's all I have available on my website right now. If you haven't worked with me yet.
And you can find me at intuitivehearthealer.com, on Instagram at Intuitive Heart Healer, or Facebook group Intuitive Heart Healer. Thank you all for joining us today, and go out and spread some love in this world.